are joined by Miranda Perumal, who's the founder and chief executive officer at Scale. Thank you so much for your time today, Miranda. We do appreciate it. Now, you're the founder of Scale, and it's obviously been quite an inspiring journey. Maybe just tell us how you managed to get to where you are and rising up through the ranks, especially when it comes to fintechs and consumers in African markets.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to be here and great to chat with you. So my background is obviously in payments, particularly in something we call issuer processing. And an easy way to understand it is I was the back-end plumber of transactions, right? And the business that I worked for prior to starting my own was called Tutuka. And we focused on enabling non-banks within the ecosystem with card products like MasterCard and Visa, but purely at a technical processing level. I spent about 8 years with that business, and during that period got to travel much across emerging market Africa, understand the ecosystem, the banks, the regulators, the telcos, the various fintechs, how they operate, how they think, what's the cultural behavior of the market in order to solve problems, right? At some point, they were acquired by a private equity fund, and at the same time, that fund acquired a smaller processor. They merged and they became Paymentology, as we know it today. And at that point, their strategy shifted. It shifted onto mature markets, core banking type processing. And for me, I was like, no, I'm still super passionate about Africa. I am African. There's lots more to do here, and I want to stay focused on this region. So it was time for me to move. I left. I went to Visa. I was the head of digital partnerships and ventures for Sub-Saharan Africa at Visa. And that was great because I got to learn how the payment network works. What do they think about? What's their strategy, etc. And at the end of that 2-year gig, I realized actually, I'm not solving the problem. And there's more impact that needs to be created. And the ecosystem is still too fragmented, which doesn't help a customer. It doesn't help a business owner. And it doesn't help the businesses that are launching products and services, financial services, to their target base. And that's when we started Scale. And the purpose of Scale is to make issuing easier. So we go and plug into all of the different partners that are needed to issue a card in any country on the continent. And any business can just plug into us, and we give them one contract, one API, one price point. They deal with one team, and we handle all of the heavy lift, and we get them live with a card in a matter of weeks. And I think, to answer your question, how did I do it, and how did that growth occur? I think very simply, someone took a chance on me when I was very young and knew nothing, opened up opportunities and empowered me with the ability to travel and experience, teach me, trusted me, and I made the most of that. And in my journey as a founder, oh my word, it's so difficult, but I'd say God's grace. And, partners across the region that I've built trust with over a period of time that now say, hey, I know you and you're good for what you say. So I'll give you a chance and an opportunity. Come and let's work together.
Wow. It's all about taking the risk, right? And I think what's important about your journey speaks to how important it is to have all financially included. And that is oftentimes really underplayed in terms of how people aren't financially included. And as much as you give somebody a bank card, doesn't make them financially included. Is this something that you want to address still and urgently, to say everybody needs to be financially included? If they don't have access to a bank, there are other ways to be financially included.
Yeah, 100%. And in fact, I was just on a panel earlier and we were having this exact conversation. I think that often, particularly in Africa, because of the size of the region, the size of the opportunity, we're looked at as a numbers game. And we're not. We are people, and we have livelihoods, and we look after families, and we have businesses, and we need to survive, right? And I think that when you talk about the financial inclusion topic, it's often just a buzzword. and every new innovation and every new product at whatever price point comes in within that package called financial inclusion, but it's not solving a problem. So I think that what we're focused on doing is looking at those flows and segments and the different ecosystem players very uniquely within the environment that they operate in, and then solutioning, for their particular use case that helps to solve a specific problem, or drive inclusion, or drive access, or drive convenience. And sometimes it's just about taking a customer from, hey, you've got a physical card today, why don't you tap with your mobile device? That's not necessarily inclusion, it's just making something more efficient and more convenient. But in other cases, somebody is literally just transacting in cash, and they have to come into the formal financial fold. And how we're doing that is looking at those businesses and players in the market that focuses on that segment, and then working with them to enable a rail or a payment instrument behind them that helps to then formally and financially include this individual into a financial environment.
And maybe just your last thoughts, if you had a glass ball and looking ahead, how do you think Africa's payment future will be shaped and where it's heading to? People have questioned the relevance of banks, especially the brick and mortar, fintechs, all of that. How do you think things will look, especially on the African continent, in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we've kind of seen this almost like traditional type payments with this huge boom into digital convenience, innovation, all this cool new agentic AI, blockchain, crypto, CBDC, etc. And now we're seeing it come down a little bit and stabilizing in a completely different mindset, because we're building payments today for the generation of the future. And the generation of the future are the youth generation that's now questioning the decision that the boom made. To say, actually, I don't want to party from midnight to 5 a.m. I want to party from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. so I can go home and chill in my house. And when I'm out at the party, I don't want to be drinking alcohol. I want to be drinking matcha, because now that's a vibe. And I want to be doing Pilates and yoga, and I don't want to be out, doing all kinds of things on my weekend, because I want a more sustainable, well looked after life. I don't want toxicity. I don't want to be on socials. It's too much of a distraction. I don't want instant gratification. I don't want that dopamine hit. I don't want brain rot. And that shift in mindset of this future generation is going to question the decisions that we are making right now in terms of the future of payments, because they want convenience, they want trust, they want accessibility, and they want simplicity. And they want access to tools that can give them the opportunity to pursue their dreams, which generally, and from what I can see, is not working in a corporate environment and climbing up the ladder. It's building businesses, building multiple businesses, and being a mother, if you're a female. So I think what the future of African payments look like is something that solves for the various individuals that's coming, in the future generation, and addressing exactly what they fundamentally need, which is not this excessive and loud and new-aged innovation. Sometimes it's actually just very, very basic tools that solves a problem and gives me access now to make a payment when I need it through the channel that I use, without needing to take me to various apps in order to send money across a border. So I know it doesn't directly answer your question.
It does.
But I think that we're sometimes just so clouded by this need to over-innovate, to attract capital, to foster economic activity, create employment, but we're causing more problems and more fragmentation in the ecosystem that's not required.